All right, let's dive into Hemingway today.
Sounds good.
We've got excerpts from 4 of his novels, The Torrents of Spring, The Sun Also Rises, A Farewell to Arms, and To Have and Have Not.
Yeah,
And you're looking for those recurring themes in that distinct Hemingway style, right?
exactly. I mean,
I think you'll find some interesting connections there.
I think so too. And what
Uh,
I always find fascinating about Hemingway's writing
yeah,
is how simple his language is.
yeah,
But the themes he's tackling are anything but simple, you
yeah,
know? Like
right.
there's this depth to it,
Absolutely.
kind of hidden.
Yeah, and you've probably heard of Hemingway's iceberg theory, right?
Oh, yeah.
That's kind of central to understanding his work.
Absolutely.
It's like you said, simple language,
Yeah.
complex themes.
Yeah. It's the idea that what you see on the surface is just
Mhm.
a small part of what's going on.
Yeah.
Like an iceberg, most of the meaning is beneath the surface, you know?
Right, right.
You got to go looking for it.
So how do we do that as readers? Like, how do we get beneath the surface and find those deeper meanings?
I think it's about paying attention to the details he does give us
Okay.
and using those as clues
Oh,
to uncover those larger themes.
I like that.
So, for example,
Yeah.
let's take the Torrents of Spring.
Okay.
Scripps O'Neill, the main character,
Yeah.
he loses his savings and leaves Mansalona
Right.
seemingly defeated.
Okay.
That's the surface.
Yeah. So, like, at first glance, it just seems like a simple story about a guy who, loses his money, loses his fortune, and
Financial ruin.
yeah.
But knowing Hemingway, there's more to it.
Yeah, there's gotta be.
Can't just be about money.
Right, right, right.
So he's using Scripps' experience to explore these bigger ideas of disillusionment
Okay.
and the search for meaning. Like,
Right.
think about it.
Yeah.
Scripps, he thought he wanted this thing.
Okay.
He got it,
Yeah.
but he's still left feeling empty.
Yeah.
And that emptiness is a big part of a lot of Hemingway's characters.
Right. So it's not just about what happens, it's about how those events impact the characters on
Yeah.
like a deeper psychological level.
Deeper level psychological.
Yeah. So is that
Yeah.
is that where we get into this idea of the lost generation?
The lost generation.
Yeah.
Like, how does that...
Yeah, so that was a term coined by Gertrude Stein.
Oh, okay.
And it was
I did not know that.
Yeah, it was used to describe the generation that came of age during World War I.
Okay.
They were disillusioned by the war's devastation and just felt lost in a world that no longer makes sense to them.
Right.
And a lot of Hemingway's characters embody this feeling, like
Okay.
Jake Barnes in The Sun Also Rises,
Let
and
me
Frederick
follow.
Henry in A Farewell to Arms.
Okay, yeah.
They both grapple with that.
Yeah, and both of those characters, you
Yeah.
know, the stories aren't explicitly about,
Right.
combat and being on the front lines or anything,
Yeah.
but they're both very deeply affected by the war. Exactly. And it's
Yeah.
almost like the war left them with
Yeah.
these invisible wounds
Right.
that run much deeper than any physical injury.
Totally. Yeah.
And Hemingway often uses physical wounds to symbolize
Mm-hmm.
these deeper psychological scars.
Interesting.
Like Jake Barnes's impotence in The Sun Also Rises.
Oh, right, right.
It's not just a physical condition.
Yeah.
It represents a deeper sense of loss
Yeah.
and this inability to connect with others
Right.
on an intimate level.
So the war robbed Jake of more than just like his physical ability, but like
Yeah.
his wholeness,
Yeah, absolutely.
his ability to connect with people, his sense of
Uh,
masculinity, maybe even.
yeah. And that kind of leads us to another big theme in Hemingway.
Okay.
Masculinity and stoicism.
Okay.
A lot of his male characters
Mm,
embody this quiet strength.
right.
They face adversity
Yeah.
without complaint. It's
Yeah.
like they're following a code.
It's like they're not allowed to be vulnerable or something.
Exactly. And a good example is Harry Morgan
Okay.
in To Have and Have Not.
Yeah.
He loses an arm, his boat's stolen,
Right.
but he doesn't complain.
Right. Like he just keeps going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to understand this, we got to think about Hemingway himself.
Right.
War, adventurous lifestyle.
Oh, okay. So his own
Yeah.
experiences kind of bleed into this.
Yeah, they shaped his writing
Right.
and his view on masculinity.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, so...
It's interesting how much of Hemingway's personal life seems to like come through in his work.
Yeah.
Do you think that was intentional or more subconscious?
It's tough to say.
Yeah.
He was pretty private,
Yeah.
but it's clear that those experiences really influenced his writing.
Right, right,
Like, I mean, how could they not?
right. So,
And it seems like all these Hemingway guys, even though they're so tough,
yeah.
they're still searching for something. Like,
Mhm.
there's this deeper theme
Yeah.
about Like a search for meaning
Absolutely.
in a world that
Yeah.
often seems chaotic and meaningless.
Yeah, I mean, they're always looking for something to hold on to, whether it's bullfighting or fishing or love,
Yeah.
even war.
Yeah.
These pursuits give them moments of intensity and purpose,
Yeah.
but they're fleeting and they can be dangerous,
Right.
which adds another layer of complexity to their
Yeah.
search.
It's like they get a little taste of it, but it never truly satisfies that
They
deeper.
never fully satisfied. It's like there's always this yearning.
Right. And it makes you wonder, like, does Hemingway believe that true fulfillment is even possible? That's a great question.
Yeah.
It's something to think about.
Yeah.
Because his world is often filled with disillusionment and loss,
Right?
but there are these glimpses of beauty and connection
Yeah.
that hint at hope.
Right. Right.
So it's this tension between darkness and light
Right.
that makes his work so compelling.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
Yeah.
That tension. Makes you think. This whole search for meaning thing we've been talking about makes me think about how Hemingway writes about love and relationships.
Oh, yeah.
Like, they're part of that search, but they're also so complicated.
Totally. And especially with all this disillusionment of the lost generation we were just talking about,
Yeah.
they really reflect the uncertainties of the time.
Right.
Take Jake and Brett in The Sun Also Rises, for instance.
Yeah.
I mean, they're clearly attracted to each other,
Right.
but Jake's injury from the war makes a real relationship impossible.
It's just heartbreaking,
Yeah.
knowing that they can never really be together.
It is.
And Brett, I mean, she's such a fascinating character.
She is.
Independent, free-spirited,
Yeah.
but she can't seem to find happiness in any of her relationships.
Right. And Hemingway doesn't shy away from that destructive side of love.
Yeah.
Brett searching for fulfillment
Right.
ends up hurting her
Yeah.
and the men around her.
Yeah.
It's like he's saying love can be a source of suffering.
Right, especially for these people grappling with the disillusionment.
Exactly.
That scene where Brett is dancing with Romero the bullfighter and Jake is just watching them.
Oh, yeah.
Like, Hemingway describes it in this really detached way, but you can feel the jealousy, the heartbreak just simmering beneath the surface.
It's all there under the surface, yeah.
Like, he wants us to read between the lines,
Exactly. It's the iceberg theory in action, right?
Yeah. He trusts us to pick up on those little cues.
Right, and to connect with those characters on a deeper level.
And it's not just the romantic relationships that are complicated.
Yeah.
The relationships between the men in his stories are kind of messed up, too.
Oh, for sure.
There's this, push and pull between being friends and competing with each other.
Yeah, like they're both drawn to each other and threatened by each other at the same time.
Right.
It's complicated.
There's this line from A Farewell to Arms that comes to mind. The world breaks everyone, and afterward, many are strong at the broken places.
Right.
Which I feel like really gets at how strong Hemingway's characters are.
Absolutely. It's like,
But it also shows how much they've been through.
yeah, that suffering really shapes their relationships.
Exactly.
And speaking of suffering, did you find any of the humor in these excerpts?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It might seem surprising, but Hemingway can be really funny,
He can.
even in some pretty dark situations.
Yeah, like some of those scenes in the Torrents of Spring.
Oh, totally.
Laughing out loud.
Like when Scripps and the waitress just get married in that beanery,
Yes.
and then they just go back to work like nothing happened.
So funny.
Classic Hemingway.
Right.
Or Yogi Johnson,
Yeah.
walking down the street with that bird under his arm.
Oh, yeah.
It's just absurd.
Yeah, and it's like he's reminding us not to take everything so seriously.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Even when things are tough.
Yeah, those little moments of humor
Mm,
give you a break from all the heavy stuff.
they do. They really do.
It makes the characters seem more real,
Oh, yeah.
more human, even when they're making really bad choices. Like, speaking of bad choices, the ending of the Torrents of Spring
Oh, yeah.
really threw me.
It's a strange one, right?
Scripps just walks away from Diana
Yeah.
and her copy of the Dial magazine.
Yeah, I don't know.
What do you think Hemingway's trying to say there?
It's open to interpretation,
Yeah.
but I think it's about this search for authenticity that so many of his characters are on.
Okay.
Like, Scripps can't find satisfaction in anything ordinary.
Like, he's always chasing something.
Yeah, even when it's right there in front of him,
Yeah.
he's got to keep searching.
Yeah.
It's restless.
Yeah, and I guess that ties back into the disillusionment we've been talking about.
Totally. They're looking for meaning in a world that's been shattered by
Right.
war, loss, all that.
Yeah.
They're searching,
Yeah.
but they can never seem to find the answers.
Maybe that's the point, though. Maybe the searching is more important.
Right. The journey, not the destination.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, to have and have not feels so different.
Yeah.
It's much more gritty.
Oh, yeah.
More political.
Yeah, remember he wrote that one during the Depression?
Oh, right.
Down in Key West?
Okay, so that explains the setting.
Yeah, it's a different world from the cafes of Paris.
Right, much harsher.
Yeah.
And Harry Morgan, he feels like a Hemingway hero.
He does.
But, like, rougher around the edges.
Yeah.
Like, he's tough, resourceful, but also flawed.
Right. He's smuggling, committing crimes
Yeah.
to support his family.
There's so much violence in this one.
Yeah. Hemingway really shows that darker side of human nature in this one.
Right, like desperation makes people do bad things.
Exactly. But he also shows compassion, you know?
Yeah.
He wants us to see the human cost of poverty and despair,
Yeah.
the struggles of people who are often overlooked.
It's interesting how he uses different settings and characters, but explores similar themes.
Totally.
Like whether it's the lost generation in Paris or the struggling fishermen in Key West.
Right.
They're all dealing with disillusionment,
Yeah.
hardship,
Yeah.
trying to find meaning
Exactly.
in a world that just seems unforgiving.
It makes his work feel so relevant even today.
Yeah, for sure.
Like economic inequality, social injustice.
Yeah,
Those are things we're still dealing with.
absolutely. That line where Harry says, "A man alone ain't got no bloody fucking chance."
Oh, yeah.
Like, you're trapped by a system that's working against you.
Totally.
Like, no matter how hard you try, it's not enough.
Yeah, you're up against these bigger forces.
Yeah, I feel like that resonates with a lot of people today.
Absolutely.
Hemingway was really aware of how society impacts people.
Oh, yeah.
Like that idea of society breaking down,
Yeah.
community falling apart.
Yeah, it's in a farewell to arms, too.
Right.
Frederick Henry, he's disillusioned with the war
Right.
and the senseless violence.
And in both books, the characters find some comfort in love.
Yeah.
Right.
But even that's taken away from them.
Yeah, it's tragic.
Like, even the strongest connections are vulnerable to fate.
Yeah. But even with all the darkness,
Yeah.
there's something about Hemingway that makes you want to keep reading.
Oh, totally.
What do you think that is?
I think it's the honesty,
Yeah.
the raw emotion.
It's powerful.
Yeah.
He gets to the heart of it all.
He doesn't make it easy,
No.
but he makes you think about the big questions
Right?
about life.
Yeah, and wrestle with your own desires and disappointments.
Yeah, I like that.
He makes you think, he makes you feel, and he stays with you long
Yeah.
after you finish the book.
Now, we touched on this earlier,
Yeah.
but Hemingway's portrayal of women,
Oh, right.
he writes these strong, stoic men,
Yeah.
but the women in his stories are more than just love interests or damsels in distress.
That's a good point. They're complex,
Yeah.
independent, often challenging expectations.
Like Brett Ashley
Oh, yeah?
in The Sun Also Rises.
Mhm.
Yeah. She's liberated,
Yeah. oh.
embracing her sexuality,
Yeah.
defying those traditional gender roles.
And Catherine Barkley
Yeah.
in A Farewell to Arms.
She's incredibly strong,
Yeah.
finding love and fulfillment in the middle of a war.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
These women are forging their own paths
Yeah,
in a world that wants to limit them.
absolutely.
It adds another layer of complexity to his relationships.
Oh, for sure.
It's not just about men and women, it's about individuals
Yeah.
trying to figure out love, loss,
Mm-hmm.
self-discovery.
In a world that's constantly changing,
Yeah.
it's about challenging those traditional ideas of what it means to be masculine or feminine
Yeah.
and how society shapes us.
It's amazing how much we've uncovered just from these excerpts.
I know, it's a lot to unpack.
Yeah, the themes, the characters, the style.
Yeah, it's all connected.
It's a rich tapestry, you know?
It is. It really is.
And it's still relevant today.
Absolutely.
I mean, almost a century later.
yeah, it's amazing.
And we've only scratched the surface.
There's always more to discover with Hemingway.
Yeah, for sure.
Every time you read him, you see something new.
I can't wait to dive back in.
Me too.
And I hope you'll join us for the last part of our Hemingway deep dive.
Yeah, we'll keep going.
We'll keep exploring his writing and all those big questions that make him so relevant. You know, we've talked about some pretty heavy stuff with Hemingway.
Yeah, we have.
Like disillusionment, the search for meaning, relationships.
It's a lot.
But there's another thing that really brings those themes to life.
Okay.
Setting,
Oh, right.
it's not just a backdrop in his stories.
Definitely not. He uses setting very deliberately.
Yeah,
It's almost like another character.
right.
It sets the mood, influences the characters.
Like in The Sun Also Rises,
Yeah.
how he describes 1920s Paris.
It's so vivid.
Yeah, you can practically smell the coffee and hear the jazz music.
Totally.
But there's also this underlying feeling of disillusionment, right?
Absolutely. It reflects the lost generation's aimlessness.
Right.
Paris becomes a symbol of both the allure and the emptiness of life after the war.
Yeah, they're drawn to the excitement, but they're also haunted by their experiences.
Right. Trying to find a place to belong.
And then there's Spain.
Ah, Spain.
So different.
Yeah, it's primal. The
Yes.
bullfights.
Yeah, it's like Hemingway's using that setting to show this confrontation with life and death.
Yeah, a raw experience.
Yeah.
Compared to the more sophisticated,
Yeah.
but maybe superficial world of Paris.
Right, and the characters are drawn to that.
Oh, yeah.
Like they're running from their problems.
They're looking for escape
Yeah.
and the thrill of the bullfight.
But those inner wounds are still there.
Always present.
And then A Farewell to Arms.
Okay.
The setting shifts from this peaceful Italian countryside
Yeah.
to the brutality of war.
Such a stark contrast.
It's jarring.
Yeah, it shows how fragile love and hope are.
Yeah.
When you're up against these powerful forces,
Right.
you've got the beauty of nature on one hand,
Yeah.
and then the ugliness of war on the other.
It makes you really feel the impact of conflict.
It does.
And speaking of nature,
Yeah.
Hemingway uses those settings a lot
Oh, yeah.
to explore masculinity, resilience.
Man versus nature.
Yeah.
That struggle.
Like in To Have and Have Not,
Okay.
the sea is so important.
Oh, absolutely. It's how Harry Morgan makes a living.
Right.
But it's also a constant threat.
Yeah. Unpredictable.
Dangerous.
Unforgiving.
Yeah, it's a symbol of the forces that shape our lives.
Right. It mirrors the challenges Harry faces.
Pushes him to his limits.
And in The Sun Also Rises, that fishing trip to Brigitte,
Oh, yeah.
it's a moment of peace.
Yeah, a break from all the drama.
For Jake and Bill.
Some camaraderie.
Yeah.
But even there,
Yeah.
the shadows are still there,
They can't escape their past.
no matter where they go.
But being in nature,
Yeah.
it does offer some solace,
I think so.
like a connection to something bigger.
Right, something real, something authentic.
Hemingway seems to suggest that nature can heal,
Maybe.
but it's not a cure.
No, the scars remain.
Yeah, it's fascinating how he brings all these things together.
He does.
Settings, characters, themes.
To create this really complex picture of what it means to be human.
And his dialogue, too.
Oh, the dialogue?
It's so distinct.
That like you're right there in the room with them,
Yeah.
eavesdropping on a conversation.
It feels real.
Yeah, it's got that rhythm of everyday speech.
Yeah, but he also uses it to
Yeah.
reveal things about the characters.
Right, move the plot forward.
Create layers of meaning.
It's all there in the way they talk.
Like in The Sun Also Rises with Jake and Brett.
Oh, yeah.
They don't say everything.
So much is left unsaid.
But you can feel the tension.
Yeah, the longing.
It's just from their gestures, the things they don't say.
It's all about reading between the lines.
Right.
Picking up on the subtext.
Hemingway doesn't spoon feed us.
Nope. He
Oh.
trusts us to figure it out.
And there's often humor there, too.
Yeah, a little dark humor.
Yeah, it's like a coping mechanism.
Exactly.
A way to deflect from the pain.
It's subtle.
But it works.
It's brilliant, really.
It's amazing how he creates these memorable characters
Yeah.
with such simple language.
Simple but powerful.
Yeah.
He makes them feel so real.
Yeah, with real problems.
And that humor.
Yeah.
It's like a shield against the world.
Thinking about all of this,
Yeah.
the themes, characters, settings, dialogue,
That's a lot.
it's no wonder Hemingway's work is still so popular.
He has such an impact on literature.
It speaks to those universal experiences.
Yeah, love, loss, searching for meaning.
It's all there.
He strips it all back to the basics.
Yeah, gets to the heart of it.
The raw, messy, beautiful complexities of being human.
He doesn't give us easy answers.
No, he asks the hard questions.
Yeah, like what does it mean to live a good life?
Right, in a world that often feels meaningless.
How do we find love when there's so much heartbreak?
How do we deal with the beauty and the pain all around us?
Those are questions we're still asking today.
And probably always will.
Hemingway's work gives us a way to think about those questions.
Yeah, to understand them a little better.
To find the beauty even in the chaos.
Yeah, to embrace it all.
Without shying away from the hard stuff.
That's the key.
I think that's a great place to end our Hemingway deep dive.
It's been a journey.
His work is so powerful.
It really is.
It makes you think, makes you feel.
And it stays with you
Yeah.
long after you've finished reading.
Thanks for joining us on this exploration of Hemingway.
Yeah, it's been fun.
I hope you've enjoyed it as much as we have.
Yeah, I hope it inspires you to read more Hemingway.
Yeah, or revisit some of his work.
There's always something new to discover.
Absolutely. Thanks again for listening.